All right, guys, let's get into why the carnivore diet is so effective, not only for fat loss, but for overall health. I've seen thousands of people try diet after diet, keto, paleo, plant-based fasting, but most end up failing. Long-term carnivore is different. By eliminating carbs, focusing on protein and healthy fats, and cutting out inflammation triggers, people see accelerated fat loss, more energy, and better health across the board. Today, I'll break down the 7 proven benefits of carnivore, from burning fat and stabilizing insulin to improving digestion, mental clarity, and hormonal balance, and explain why this simple diet works when others fail. When you strip nutrition down to its most essential elements, you start to see what the human body actually thrives on. Protein drives muscle retention, fat provides stable fuel, and by cutting out unnecessary carbohydrates, you remove the constant roller coaster of blood sugar and insulin spikes. What this means practically is more energy throughout the day, less hunger, fewer cravings, and a metabolism that actually works in your favor rather than against you. For so many people, that's the missing piece. They're not broken. The diet they're following is. What makes carnivore unique is its simplicity. You're not juggling macros, tracking every bite, or endlessly restricting calories. You eat real, nutrient-dense animal foods, steak, eggs, fish, and the body responds exactly how it's designed to. Inflammation drops, digestion improves, mental fog clears, and people finally start seeing results they couldn't get with any other approach. This isn't a short-term hack or a trendy fad. It's about removing the barriers that modern food creates and returning to the foods that humans have thrived on for thousands of years. The results speak for themselves, and that's why so many people are making the switch. When people struggle with weight loss, one of the biggest culprits is the role that carbohydrates play in constantly spiking insulin levels. Every time you eat carbs, whether it's bread, pasta, rice, or even so-called healthy whole grains, your blood sugar goes up and your body releases insulin to bring it back down. Insulin's job isn't just to regulate blood sugar, it's also the primary fat storage hormone. When insulin is elevated, your body essentially locks fat away and keeps it from being used as energy. That's why so many people can be in a calorie deficit, exercising hard, and still struggle to burn fat. The hormonal environment matters more than just counting calories, and carbs are the key driver of this metabolic roadblock. When you remove carbohydrates from the diet, insulin levels drop significantly. With lower insulin, the body is no longer stuck in fat storage mode and can begin to access stored body fat for fuel. This is what people mean when they talk about fat adaptation. Instead of running on glucose all day, a quick unstable fuel source that constantly needs replenishing, your body starts running on fat, both from your diet and from your own fat stores. This shift is one of the most powerful aspects of the carnivore diet. By removing carbs, you give your body no choice but to become efficient at burning fat, which leads to a steady supply of energy and a dramatic reduction in hunger and cravings. Think about the average person on a high carb diet. They eat breakfast, maybe cereal or toast, insulin spikes, blood sugar rises, then crashes a couple of hours later, leaving them hungry, irritable, and reaching for a snack. The cycle repeats at lunch, at dinner, and again late at night when the cravings kick in. This roller coaster isn't a willpower issue. It's a biochemical problem created by carbs. When insulin is spiking and crashing all day, hunger becomes uncontrollable. Contrast that with someone on a carnivore diet. They eat a ribeye steak or a few eggs cooked in butter, and because there are no carbs, insulin stays stable. Blood sugar doesn't crash and hunger doesn't come roaring back an hour later. Instead, they feel full, satisfied, and energized for hours at a time. This is also why so many people report that carnivore feels easier than any other diet they've tried. With fat adaptation, the body doesn't panic when you go several hours without eating because it has access to a virtually unlimited supply of stored body fat. Hunger signals calm down, cravings for sugar and junk food disappear, and instead of relying on sheer willpower to stay away from snacks, you simply don't want them anymore. That natural appetite regulation is one of the most powerful fat loss tools you can have. You're not forcing yourself to eat less. Your body is naturally telling you that you don't need as much food because it's running efficiently on fat. On top of this, steady fat burning leads to more consistent energy levels throughout the day. Instead of spikes and crashes, you get a smooth, reliable flow of energy from fat. This has huge implications not only for weight loss, but for focus, productivity, and even mood. When the brain is fueled by ketones, the byproduct of fat metabolism, people often describe a sense of mental clarity they never experienced on a carb-based diet. Afternoon slump goes away, cravings for caffeine are reduced, and performance in both physical and mental tasks improves. Over time, the lowered insulin and increased fat adaptation don't just help you lose fat, they also improve your metabolic health. Markers like fasting glucose, triglycerides, and insulin sensitivity all improve dramatically. This means not only easier weight loss now, but a reduced risk of developing conditions like type 2 diabetes, fatty liver, or metabolic syndrome later. The carnivore diet isn't just about shedding pounds, it's about creating a metabolic environment where fat loss is sustainable, hunger is controlled, and health is optimized. When you look at what actually builds and maintains muscle, it's not complicated. It comes down to protein, and not just any protein, but high quality, bioavailable protein that your body can actually use. Animal protein is far superior in this regard. It has the complete amino acid profile, it's digested efficiently, and it's what your muscles are literally built from. People like to complicate this with powders, blends, or plant-based combinations, but nothing compares to a steak, eggs, or a piece of fish when it comes to supplying your body with the raw material it needs to grow and recover. When you train, when you put your muscles under load, you're breaking them down. The repair process is what makes them stronger and leaner, and protein is what drives that process. If you shortchange it, you're shortchanging your results. Now, alongside protein, fat is equally critical, and this is where so many people miss the mark. Fat isn't just a calorie source, it's a hormone regulator, it's fuel, it's what makes you feel satisfied after a meal. Healthy animal fats, the kind you get with ribeye, salmon, or even ground beef, give you steady energy without the crash that comes from carbs and sugar. Your body is incredibly efficient at running on fat, and when you pair that with protein, you've got the perfect 1-2 punch for both performance and body composition. Fat provides the energy, protein provides the structure, and together they create an environment where you're building lean muscle while keeping body fat in check. One of the overlooked aspects of protein and fat is satiety. When you eat a meal centered around steak and eggs, for example, you're not thinking about food again for hours. Compare that to eating a bowl of cereal or some pasta. You'll be hungry again in no time, usually reaching for a snack or another carb-heavy meal. That constant grazing leads to overeating, which is why so many people struggle with weight gain even when they think they're eating healthy. Protein and fat send powerful signals to your brain and gut that you've had enough. That sense of satiety shuts down cravings, it keeps insulin low, and it makes it much easier to stay within a reasonable caloric intake without even trying. Metabolically, protein has a unique advantage. It has the highest thermic effect of food, meaning your body actually burns more energy digesting protein than it does carbs or fat. So when your diet is rich in protein, your metabolism literally speeds up because it takes work for your body to break those amino acids down and put them to use. This is part of why high protein diets are consistently associated with better fat loss outcomes, not just because of satiety, but because of the metabolic cost of processing the protein. You're fueling muscle, burning more calories, and keeping your appetite under control all at the same time. Fat complements this by being energy dense and stable. Unlike carbohydrates, spike blood sugar and insulin and then leave you crashing, fat provides a slow, sustained burn. That means no roller coaster of hunger and energy crashes. When your meals are structured around protein and fat, you don't need to snack. Your body is fueled in a way that matches how we're designed to function. Steady energy, strong muscles, clear focus. And if you're training, this becomes even more noticeable. You can push harder in the gym recover faster afterward, and you're not stuck in a cycle of constant hunger. Think about how humans evolved. We didn't graze all day on plant foods. We hunted, we ate meat, we ate fat, and then we went hours without eating again. That's how we're wired. And when you return to that kind of eating, you'll see the difference quickly. Muscles become more defined, energy levels even out, and body composition improves because you're no longer driven by cravings. You eat when you need to, not because you're constantly spiking insulin with empty foods. So when people ask why a carnivore or animal-based diet works so well for body composition, the answer is simple. It's the protein and fat. They're not just calories, they're signaling molecules, they're structural components, and they're what tell your brain that you've eaten enough. Lean muscle thrives on animal protein, metabolism runs hotter with it, and healthy fats keep you satisfied and hormonally balanced. It's not a trick or a gimmick, it's just fueling your body the way it was designed to be fueled. When you talk about recovery, most people immediately think of supplements, ice baths, or the latest gadget that promises quicker healing. But the truth is, recovery starts with what you put in your mouth every single day. Chronic inflammation is one of the biggest obstacles to proper recovery, and the modern diet is loaded with foods that keep that inflammatory fire burning. Seed oils, refined sugars, and plant-based irritants are some of the worst offenders. These aren't just harmless calories. They're compounds that disrupt your system at a cellular level, keeping you sore, achy, and unable to bounce back from hard training or even just the stress of daily life. Seed oils are particularly insidious. They're marketed as heart healthy, but what they really do is flood your body with unstable omega-6 fatty acids that oxidize easily. That oxidation creates free radicals, damaging tissues and ramping up systemic inflammation. If you've ever felt like your joints are stiff or swollen after a day of eating fried food, there's a reason. These oils get incorporated into your cell membranes, literally changing the way your cells function and making them more vulnerable to damage. Contrast that with animal fats like tallow or butter, which are stable, natural, and provide the building blocks your body actually uses to repair itself. When you eliminate seed oils, you remove one of the biggest triggers of unnecessary inflammation. Sugar is the next big player. People think of sugar as just empty calories, but the damage goes far deeper. High sugar intake spikes insulin repeatedly, and chronically elevated insulin drives inflammation through multiple pathways. It raises uric acid, it stresses the liver, it promotes fat storage around the organs, all of which contribute to a pro-inflammatory state. You might not connect your sweet tooth to your sore knees, but they're directly related. Every time you dump sugar into the system, you're adding fuel to the inflammatory fire. Your immune system ends up distracted, busy cleaning up metabolic messes instead of repairing the microtears in your muscle or dealing with real pathogens. Cutting sugar allows your body to calm down, redirect resources, and focus on true recovery. Plant irritants are another overlooked factor. Foods like grains, legumes, and even certain vegetables contain antinutrients like lectins, oxalates, and phytates. These compounds are designed to protect the plant, but when you eat them, they can damage the gut lining, trigger immune responses, and create low-grade inflammation that lingers. Many people live with constant bloating, joint aches, or skin issues without realizing these symptoms often trace back to plant compounds. For someone trying to recover from workouts or simply stay healthy as they age, this background inflammation makes a massive difference. Removing these irritants allows your immune system to stop fighting off perceived invaders and instead invest energy into healing muscles, strengthening connective tissue, and keeping your joints functional. When you strip away seed oils, sugar, and plant irritants, the change in how your body feels is dramatic. Joints move more freely, soreness fades faster, and your overall resilience improves. Instead of waking up stiff and inflamed, you wake up ready to train again, or take on the day. This isn't magic, it's simply the result of no longer poisoning the system with substances that don't belong there. Inflammation has a role in the acute phase of recovery. Your body uses it to signal repair. But when it's chronic and systemic, it prevents you from fully bouncing back. By cutting out the constant sources of irritation, you let the natural short-term inflammation of training do its job without being drowned out by all the background noise. Your immune system also benefits tremendously. A diet low in inflammatory triggers frees up immune resources, allowing your body to fight infections more effectively and heal faster from injuries. Athletes notice it. Older people notice it. Anyone under stress notices it. The recovery window shortens, workouts feel more productive, and nagging pains start to disappear. This isn't about taking another pill or chasing the next biohack. It's about removing the things that were dragging you down in the first place. If you want your body to run the way it's supposed to, you have to stop feeding it the very substances that compromise it. Meat, fish, eggs, and animal fats provide nourishment without the baggage. They deliver protein and micronutrients that help rebuild tissue, fuel the immune system, and stabilize hormones, all without the inflammatory load that comes from modern processed foods and plant toxins. You can train harder, recover faster, and feel better simply by cutting out what doesn't serve you. It's a return to basics, but those basics are exactly what make the difference between being stuck in a cycle of soreness and fatigue versus thriving with strength and energy. Most people have been told for decades that fiber is the key to good digestion. Eat more whole grains, load up on vegetables, pile on the roughage. That's the standard advice. Yet, what do we actually see? Bloating, gas, constipation, irritable bowel syndrome, reflux, and a whole host of gut issues that people just assume are normal. The reality is that for many, the very foods they've been told to eat for gut health are the ones keeping their digestive system inflamed and dysfunctional. When you cut out excess fiber, antinutrients, and processed foods, digestion gets simpler, easier, and far less stressful on the body. Fiber is not the magic bullet it's been made out to be. Sure, it can add bulk, but bulk isn't the same thing as healthy digestion. In fact, for people with sensitive guts, fiber often acts like sandpaper, irritating the intestinal lining, feeding harmful bacteria and producing gas as it ferments. That gas leads to bloating, discomfort, and even pain. Constipation isn't necessarily fixed by fiber either. In many cases, it makes it worse by adding more volume without addressing the underlying dysfunction. When you take fiber out of the equation and rely instead on easily digested animal foods, the system calms down. Waste moves through efficiently, stools become smaller and easier to pass, and the constant bloating that so many people think is just part of life disappears. Antinutrients are another overlooked source of digestive distress. Plants contain compounds like lectins, oxalates, the phytates that are designed to protect them from being eaten. For humans, these compounds can irritate the gut lining, bind to minerals, and interfere with nutrient absorption. They contribute to leaky gut inflammation and immune responses that manifest as everything from bloating to joint pain to skin issues. When people remove foods like beans, grains, and certain vegetables, they often notice their digestion improves dramatically. The gut lining has a chance to heal because it's no longer being assaulted daily by these plant defense chemicals. That healing translates into less inflammation, more efficient nutrient uptake, and overall smoother digestion. Processed foods add a whole different layer of problems. Industrial additives, preservatives, emulsifiers, and artificial sweeteners all have a disruptive effect on the gut microbiome and on the integrity of the intestinal barrier. Emulsifiers in particular can strip away the protective mucus layer in the gut, leaving the lining exposed and vulnerable. Artificial sweeteners can shift the bacterial balance in unfavorable ways, leading to more bloating and irregular bowel movements. Then you add the refined grains, seed oils, and sugars that make up the bulk of processed food, and you've created a recipe for constant digestive dysfunction. Cutting them out removes the barrage of irritants and allows the gut environment to stabilize. What happens when you simplify digestion by focusing on animal-based foods? You eliminate the gas, producing fiber, the antinutrients, and the artificial compounds. Meat, eggs, and fish are digested cleanly and efficiently in the small intestine, leaving very little residue behind for bacteria to ferment. That means far less bloating and gas, and it also means your gut lining isn't under constant stress. Your digestive system works the way it's supposed to, quietly, without you even noticing. Meals leave you satisfied but not uncomfortable, and you're not dealing with the roller coaster of alternating constipation and diarrhea that so many consider normal. Healing the gut also improves overall health because digestion isn't an isolated system. When the gut is inflamed, the immune system is on high alert, and that affects everything from energy levels to mood to recovery from exercise. By removing the irritants and giving the gut a chance to repair itself, systemic inflammation drops, nutrient absorption improves, and you feel the difference in every aspect of your health. People report clearer skin, less joint pain, more stable energy, and sharper focus, all rooted in improved gut function. The simplicity of digestion on an animal-based approach is something you have to experience to appreciate, instead of being bogged down with gas, bloating, and unpredictable bowel movements. Your digestive system just works. It's efficient, it's calm, and it allows your body to use the nutrients you give it without waste or constant irritation. That's the way it was designed to function, and it's why removing fiber, antinutrients, and processed foods can feel like flipping a switch. For the first time, your gut is allowed to rest and recover, and that foundation supports every other system in the body. When people talk about diet, the conversation usually stops at weight loss or muscle gain, but the reality is that what you eat dictates how your brain functions and how your hormones operate day in and day out. If your mind feels foggy, if your energy swings up and down, if your hormones are out of balance, you're never going to perform at your best, no matter how disciplined you are in other areas. A diet built around animal foods directly supports neurotransmitter production, clears away the fog that comes from unstable blood sugar and inflammatory foods, and provides the raw materials for optimal hormonal balance. That's the foundation of long-term vitality. Neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, and acetylcholine are literally made from amino acids, the building blocks of protein. Without adequate, high-quality protein, your brain simply doesn't have the raw materials it needs to function properly. Animal protein is unmatched here because it provides complete amino acid profiles in forms that your body can actually use. Tyrosine, for example, is needed for dopamine, which controls motivation, focus, and drive. Tryptophan is required for serotonin, which affects mood and sleep. Choline, found abundantly in eggs and liver, is essential for acetylcholine, which governs memory and learning. When your diet is centered on these nutrient-dense animal foods, your brain chemistry is supported at the deepest level. Instead of chasing stimulants or nootropics, you're fueling the system with what it's designed to run on. Brain fog is one of the first things people notice disappearing when they switch to a carnivore or animal-based diet. That fog is largely the result of blood sugar fluctuations, inflammatory responses to plant foods, and the constant roller coaster that comes from relying on carbs for energy. When you eat carbohydrates, blood sugar spikes, insulin rises, and a couple hours later you're crashing, searching for another hit. Each one of those spikes and crashes creates instability in the brain, often leaving you with sluggish thinking and poor concentration. In contrast, when you fuel your body with protein and fat, blood sugar stays stable. Ketones, which your body produces when fat is your primary fuel source, provide a clean and steady energy for the brain. They cross the blood-brain barrier efficiently, and many people describe the mental clarity on a carnivore diet as something they never experienced before. It's not a temporary buzz, it's sustained focus that lasts all day. Hormonal balance is another area where animal-based nutrition shines. Testosterone, thyroid hormones, and cortisol are all profoundly influenced by diet. Testosterone, for instance, is built from cholesterol and requires adequate saturated fat and protein. Diets low in fat, especially animal fat, often lead to suppressed testosterone levels, leaving men with low energy, poor recovery, and diminished drive. Women also benefit from stable testosterone because it supports lean mass, bone health, and libido. A carnivore diet rich in cholesterol and saturated fat provides the substrate needed to maintain optimal levels naturally. Thyroid function depends heavily on nutrients like iodine, selenium, and tyrosine, all of which are abundant in animal foods such as seafood, eggs, and meat. The thyroid regulates metabolism, body temperature, and energy, and when it's not functioning properly, you feel sluggish and drained. By eliminating plant antinutrients that interfere with absorption and focusing on nutrient-dense animal products, you give the thyroid what it needs to operate efficiently. Cortisol, the stress hormone, is often elevated in people eating high-carb, low-protein diets. Constant blood sugar spikes and crashes force the body to pump out cortisol to stabilize energy. Over time, this leads to adrenal fatigue, poor sleep, and impaired recovery. A carnivore diet stabilizes blood sugar and lowers the demand for cortisol. That means stress is easier to manage, sleep improves, and recovery is faster. Balanced cortisol also works in synergy with other hormones, keeping the whole system in check rather than running on overdrive. Over the long term, this hormonal stability translates into vitality, stronger muscles, higher energy, sharper mental performance, and resilience against stress are all tied to hormones being in the proper balance. You can train harder, think more clearly, and stay consistent because your physiology is running smoothly instead of fighting itself. The nutrients in animal foods don't just cover the basics, they optimize the system. Vitamin B12, iron, zinc, creatine, and omega-3 fatty acids are critical for both neurological and hormonal health, and they're found in their most bioavailable forms in meat, fish, and eggs. When you strip away the noise of plant toxins, sugar, and processed junk, the body returns to a state of balance. The brain lights up with clarity, hormones stabilize, and your day-to-day performance becomes effortless. Instead of forcing focus, chasing energy drinks, or battling mood swings, you experience steady, natural vitality. That's what happens when you give the body the fuel it's designed for: protein and fat from animal sources that directly build neurotransmitters, stabilize hormones, and keep the brain running clean. It's a straightforward formula that works because it aligns with human physiology, and the results speak for themselves in the way people feel and perform.